I stood there and watched a bulldozer reduce my $5 million lakefront mansion to rubble while the HOA president smiled and casually sipped champagne. That's not exaggeration. That was Tuesday morning, 9:15 a.m. I was barefoot in my driveway, still wearing nothing but boxer shorts, staring in disbelief as complete strangers tore apart the boathouse my dying grandfather had built with his own 2 hands. The very same boathouse where my late wife and I carved our initials 3 decades ago. The same structure I had just spent 6 months restoring to honor her memory.
And my offense?
I supposedly owed the HOA $300. $300. Vivica Drummond, HOA president, spray-tan dictator with a clipboard addiction, stood about 50 feet away filming the destruction on her iPhone. A sweating Starbucks iced latte rested perfectly in her manicured fingers. She wanted me to watch. She wanted me humiliated. She wanted me shattered. What she didn't realize was simple. I didn't just own that house. I owned the land beneath her entire neighborhood. And I was moments away from making her regret every second of this stunt. Drop your state below because I know plenty of you have HOA nightmare stories too. My name is Maxwell Cordell. Max to anyone who isn't trying to hand me legal paperwork. I'm 52 years old, a former structural engineer, the kind who designs cell towers that stay standing during hurricanes. 4 years ago, I sold my patents, retired early, and assumed I'd spend the rest of my life doing absolutely nothing stressful. Then my wife Lillian died. Cancer. 18 months of watching the strongest woman I'd ever known slowly fade into someone I barely recognized. Our kids were grown, living their own lives on opposite coasts. They tried to support me. But grief isn't something you can outsource. You just endure it. 6 months after her funeral, my grandfather Dutch passed at 93. Heart failure. Peaceful in his sleep. The man survived Korea, built half the homes in this county with his bare hands, and taught me everything I understood about integrity. His final words to me a week before he died were, "The lake house is yours now, Maxie. Take care of her. She'll take care of you." The lake house. 2. 8 acres of pristine Michigan waterfront on Mirror Lake. Dutch bought the land in 1963 when the area was nothing but trees and optimism, then built 4 homes along the shoreline. Ours was the crown jewel. 7,200 square feet. Floor-to-ceiling windows facing the water. A stone fireplace he'd mortared himself. And that boathouse. God, that boathouse. I moved in 3 months after his funeral. Sold my condo in Grand Rapids, packed Lillian's belongings, her recipe cards, gardening books, and the ridiculous collection of coffee mugs she refused to throw away, and drove north. The smell of cedar hit me the second I opened the door. Dutch had replaced the dock planks every decade like clockwork. You could still see pencil lines where he'd measured each cut. I spent $400,000 renovating. Installed new solar panels, ramps, grab bars. Dutch had needed a wheelchair during his last 2 years. I restored that 1960s stone fireplace exactly as it appeared in old photos. And the boathouse. I reinforced every beam, replaced each roof shingle individually, repainted it in Dutch's original forest green. Lillian and I carved our initials into the doorframe in 1994. M+L inside a crooked heart. I cried while sanding around it, careful not to damage a single groove. The lake itself became therapy. Mornings, I'd hear loons calling across the water. That haunting, lonely sound somehow made me feel less alone. I'd sit on the dock with coffee, running my fingers along the worn rope on the tire swing Lillian insisted we hang for the grandkids we were definitely going to have someday. We never had grandkids. But I kept the swing. What I didn't realize was that while I was drowning in grief and renovation dust, the neighborhood had transformed. Some developer bought up 47 parcels around the lake and built McMansions, $800,000 to $1. $2 million, identical, beige, completely soulless. They formed an HOA in 2018. Mirror Lake Estates Homeowners Association. Annual dues were $2,400. The 4 original properties, including mine, technically existed before the HOA. But the developer convinced legacy owners to join for community harmony. Dutch, older and less interested in conflict, signed something. I inherited that signature. And apparently I inherited $11,700 in unpaid fees and penalties he had ignored. I discovered the debt the same week I finished restoring the boathouse. Certified letter. Thick envelope. Return address, V. Drummond, HOA President. Inside was a $300 fine for architectural violations. My grandfather's 60-year-old boathouse didn't match their approved color palette. At the bottom was a handwritten note in purple ink, legacy properties must comply with current standards. Looking forward to your cooperation. Viva smiley face. That smiley face should have been my first warning. I'm not confrontational. I solve problems with spreadsheets, not arguments. So I called the HOA office. Voicemail. Vivica's syrup sweet voice. You've reached Mirror Lake Estates HOA. Your community, your home, your investment. 2 business days turned into a week. I called 4 times. Finally drove to her office, her finished basement with a hand-painted HOA headquarters sign in aggressive cursive. The chemical floral air freshener hit first, thick enough to taste. Vivica sat behind a salvage desk surrounded by color-coded binders. Mine was red. Never a good sign. Mr. Cordell. Acrylic nails clicked against my palm. Please sit. No coffee offered. Power move. This boathouse fine, I said, sliding the letter across. It was built in 1963. Before your subdivision existed. Oh, I completely understand. Shark smile. But Legacy Properties agreed to current standards. Section 4. 7. Would you like a printed copy? I'll paint it whatever color fixes this. Click. 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 Her calculator. Before remediation, you must clear the outstanding balance of $11,700. I stared. What? Your grandfather's unpaid fees. 6 years plus penalties. Liens transfer with property. Perhaps you should have done due diligence during probate. The printout showed itemized charges dating to 2018. Late fees compounding like cancer. Lillian used to handle paperwork. After she died, I'd been on autopilot. Trusting lawyers caught everything. Wrong. County records are public for a reason. $50 could have saved me this nightmare. Dutch was 90, I said. He probably didn't understand. Nevertheless. Payment plan appeared. 5 years. 18% interest. I designed earthquake-proof towers more stable than that math. I'm not signing today. Of course not. But Section 7. 3 allows liens after 90 days delinquent. Just FYI. That smile again. I left without slamming the door. 2 weeks later, a fluorescent orange lien notice sticker covered my front door. 8 inches tall. Visible from the road. Gus knocked that evening holding a Bud Light, looking uncomfortable. They got you too? He asked, nodding at the sticker. What do you mean? The Reagans. 4 houses down. Viva filed a lien over $900 last year. Foreclosed when they couldn't pay. Teachers. They're renting 40 minutes away now. Cold settled in my stomach. Over $900. HOAs had teeth. And Vivica didn't just win. She made sure you knew you lost. That night I tore through Dutch's workshop filing cabinet. Olive drab metal smelling like his cherry pipe tobacco. Folders of lumber receipts. Deck sketches. Appliance warranties. At the bottom, Lake House, important in Dutch's block letters. The deed was so old the paper felt like cloth. I held it under the work light. Parcel A, Lakewood Development Company, comprising 42 acres including lake bed, access roads, and all appurtenances thereto. 42 acres. My lot was 2.8. I flipped it over. A photograph. Dutch in a suit grinning, shaking hands in front of a Lakewood Estates, coming soon sign. On the back his handwriting, partnership dissolved. Dutch retains master parcel. BK 1965. I sat on the workshop floor for 20 minutes, dust floating through flashlight beams, trying to understand. 42 minus 2. 8 left 39. 2 acres of what? Where did it go? Outside, the lake was silent. No loons. No wind. Just my pulse and a distant pool filter humming. Dutch's grin in that photo. He'd known something. Built something bigger than I realized. I hadn't just inherited a house. I'd inherited a puzzle. And maybe, the key to dismantling Vivica's little empire. But first I needed to know what Dutch actually owned. Which meant a trip I'd been avoiding. The county recorder's office. 60 miles away through farmland, I didn't feel like driving on a Tuesday. I looked at the deed again. 42 acres. Impossible. And perfectly Dutch. The man never did anything small. My phone buzzed. Text from my daughter Emma in Seattle. Dad, just pay the stupid fees. It's not worth the stress. I looked out the workshop window at the demolished boathouse, a pile of splintered cedar where Dutch's craftsmanship once stood. Typed back, some things are worth fighting for. She replied with 3 eye roll emojis. Kids these days. No appreciation for righteous stubbornness. I made coffee. Awful 2 a.m. Workshop coffee that tasted like equal parts regret and determination. Then I started writing a list. County recorder. Title search. Maybe an actual real estate attorney who didn't charge $300 just to answer the phone. Dutch used to say, measure twice, cut once. Time to start measuring. The county recorder's office opened at 8 a.m. I arrived at 7:45 with gas station coffee that tasted like burnt despair and sat in the parking lot watching fog slowly lift off the surrounding farmland. The building looked like every government office constructed in 1974. Brown brick. Narrow windows. The architectural version of a sigh. Inside smelled like aging paper and floor polish. The kind of scent that makes you feel like you're inside a library run by someone's perpetually disappointed grandmother. The clerk was exactly that grandmother. Doreen, according to the nameplate. 70-something. Cat eyeglasses hanging from a beaded chain. Cardigan embroidered with a sleeping cat. She glanced up from a crossword puzzle. Help you, hun. I need deed records for Mirror Lake. Original filing around 1963. Owner was Dutch Cordell. Her entire face lit up. Well, I haven't heard that name in years. That old Dutchman helped my husband build our barn back in '74. Didn't charge a penny. Just wanted beer and conversation. She stood, joints popping. What do you need, sweetheart? Everything you've got on the original Lakewood development. Oh, this'll be fun. Nobody asks for microfiche anymore. She disappeared into a back room that looked frozen in time since the Carter administration. 10 minutes later she returned pushing a cart with a microfiche reader. Real, honest-to-God microfiche. The kind I thought only existed in conspiracy movies. The machine hummed to life, casting that strange bluish glow. Here we go. 1963. Film slid into place. Mechanical clicks. Dust and acetate smell. Bernard Cost files Lakewood Estates as a 42-acre development. Lists Dutch as co-owner. 50% equity. There it was on the screen. Text so faded it looked ghostwritten. Now 1965, more clicking. Oh, this is interesting. Cost files bankruptcy. Market crash. Poor timing. Only sold 3 homes before everything collapsed. She adjusted her glasses. And here, quitclaim deed. Cost signs his 50% to Dutch for $1 and other valuable consideration. He sold his half for $1? Bankruptcy courts don't care about market value, hun. He probably owed more than it was worth. Quitclaim means he transferred whatever interest he had. No promises. No guarantees. But here's the key part. She tapped the screen. If it's recorded first at the county, it beats any later claim. First in time, first in right. Your grandfather got everything. My coffee had gone cold. I didn't notice. Anything after 65? Let's see. More film. More clicking. 1966. Dutch records a non-subdivision covenant. Keeps the entire 42 acres as one parcel. Leases 4 home sites on 99-year terms. She looked over her glasses. Smart man. Keeps ownership. Gives people long-term security. Everybody wins. So the other houses, they're on leased land? If he never subdivided, and looks like he didn't, then yes. Every structure built after 66 sits on his land. She kept scrolling. Oh wait. Something from 1998. My stomach tightened. Dutch files an informal subdivision plat. Township probably pushed him for tax reasons. Happens when areas develop. He carves out 4 lots, including yours. Her finger traced the screen. But the remaining 38 acres are listed as common area retained by grantor. Meaning? Meaning you own it, sugar. Roads. Retention pond. That fancy clubhouse I heard about. If it sits on those 38 acres, it's yours. The world tilted slightly. Can you pull the clubhouse parcel title? You're thorough. I like that. More microfiche. Developer called Pinnacle Properties LLC sold it to your HOA in 2018 for, she squinted, $200,000. But look at the source deed. Pinnacle references the 1998 plat and assumes the common area was public land. But it wasn't? Nope. Public land requires formal dedication. Township acceptance. Full process. This tap on the screen. is just one private owner letting people use his land until he decides otherwise. I leaned back in the plastic chair, hands shaking slightly. So legally.
Legally, hun?
That HOA built their clubhouse on your land without permission.
And adverse possession?
Usually 15 to 20 years of open use. They've only been there, what, 6?
6 years. Not even close. She shut down the machine.
Your grandfather was smarter than folks realized. Built himself a kingdom and made it look like generosity.
I drove home in a daze.
The farmland looked different now.
Every fence line. Every marker.
Everything meant something I'd never noticed before. Ownership isn't possession.
It's paperwork. Who filed first? Who recorded what?
Who actually read the fine print? Dutch had read it. And he'd kept his ace for 60 years. When I got home, there was a padlock on my boathouse door. Correction, on the pile of lumber that used to be my boathouse. A sign zip-tied to the wreckage. Violation, pending removal. Gus stood in his driveway watching.
Emergency board meeting last night, he called.
Vivica authorized demolition. You've got until Friday to pay or they're taking it down.
Today was Tuesday.
I looked at the padlock.
The sign.
My phone filled with photos of every microfiche screen Doreen showed me.
Let them try, I said. Friday morning. Deadline day. I woke to diesel engines. Not again.
I ran outside barefoot, apparently my signature move during crises, and saw a cat bulldozer idling in my driveway. 2 workers in hard hats and neon vests stood beside what remained of the structure, studying clipboards.
Stop! I shouted.
You can't do this. The foreman, gray-bearded, maybe 50, looked up.
Got a work order, buddy.
HOA authorization.
Township permit.
Whole 9 yards.
You Max Cordell?
Yes. And that's my property. You're about to, says here you got notice. Architectural violation.
Unpaid fees. Blah blah.
He showed me the permit.
Official stamps. Vivica's signature.
Even the township code officer listed.
Look, I just follow paperwork. Got a problem? Call the HOA. I called the police.
They arrived 12 minutes later. Felt like 12 hours. But the foreman had documents in order. Sir, if he has authorization from code enforcement, we can't stop him, the deputy said.
Not unkind. Just helpless.
So I watched again. 40 minutes of crushing wood and screaming hydraulics. The smell of diesel mixing with fresh sawdust and morning dew. Every beam Dutch had hand-planed. Every joint Lillian and I restored. Reduced to kindling you could buy at a garden center.
That's when Vivica showed up. White Escalade.
Starbucks iced latte. Designer sunglasses despite the clouds. She parked 50 feet away and stepped out, already recording on her phone. Just documenting, she called sweetly. 4 HOA records. I was shaking. Physically shaking with rage I didn't know I had. You're going to regret this, I said quietly.
Calm.
Like warning someone they're standing on cracking ice. Threats, Mr. Cordell, she said louder for the camera. I'm documenting everything. You're becoming increasingly hostile toward HOA personnel executing lawful. It's not lawful if you don't own the land. She lowered the phone for half a second. Confusion flickered. Then the smile returned. I'm not engaging with conspiracy theories. You have a lovely day.
She drove off.
I stood in the wreckage holding the only thing I'd saved, the photograph of Dutch and Bernard Cost from 1962.
Frame cracked. Glass gone. Picture intact.
Gus walked over and put a hand on my shoulder. Said nothing. Didn't need to. She just made the biggest mistake of her life, I finally said.
Yeah, Gus nodded.
She has no idea, does she?
Not yet.
I spent the weekend in what my daughter would call an unhealthy dissociative state.
Didn't shower.
Ate cold pizza straight from the box. Ignored 17 calls. But I wasn't sulking. I was planning. Monday morning I hired a surveyor. Independent Land Services. Guy named Travis. 20-something with more enthusiasm for drones than should legally be allowed. Dude, this is going to be sick, he said, unloading equipment that looked pricier than my first car. Original 1963 survey pins? That's archaeological level surveying. We're going to GPS the hell out of this. He spent 2 days mapping every inch with laser precision. Cross-referencing Dutch's coordinates with current construction. I watched from the kitchen window, drinking coffee and waiting. Wednesday afternoon he knocked, holding a tablet, grinning like he'd discovered buried treasure. Dude. You need to see this. The 3D overlay showed original 1963 boundaries in red. Current structures in blue. 11 houses, including Vivica's, had blue sections extending past the red lines. Her garage, Travis said, zooming in, is literally 6 feet onto your land. Like, the entire back portion of it.
Foundation and all. Are you sure?
GPS accuracy within 2 centimeters. I can testify to that in court if you need me to. He swiped to another angle. And the clubhouse, dude. The whole clubhouse sits on your parcel. Pool, parking lot, that weird gazebo structure, all of it. Yours.
I sat down. Stood up. Sat down again.
Can I get a copy of this? Already emailed the full report. Also uploading to the county GIS database because legally I have to, public record requirements and all that. He packed up his tablet. Whatever you're planning, man, good luck. That HOA lady seems like a real piece of work. Understatement of the century. That night, Vivica posted in the neighborhood Facebook group. Concerned about suspicious surveying activity near community common areas? Reminder that only HOA-approved contractors may access association property. Please report unauthorized personnel immediately. Stay vigilant, neighbors.
43 comments. Most supportive. A few skeptical.
One from Gus. Maybe he's checking property lines because someone demolished his family's boathouse without actual legal authority. Vivica deleted his comment within an hour.
The war was officially on.
I spent the weekend in a fog.
Didn't shower. Didn't shave.
Survived on cold pizza and spite. My kitchen table disappeared under Dutch's documents, survey reports, and stacks of county printouts. Saturday night my daughter Emma called. Dad, I'm driving up. You don't need to. I'm already on I-94. See you in 3 hours. She arrived just after midnight, took one look at me, and the disaster zone formerly known as my kitchen, and sighed. Dad, this isn't healthy.
I'm fine.
You're wearing the same shirt as Thursday. I can smell you from here. She started sorting papers into neat piles. Emma's a paralegal in Seattle. Organization is her love language.
Let me help. What are we looking for?
Proof Vivica doesn't own what she thinks she owns.
Okay.
Then we do this methodically. She grabbed a legal pad. Show me everything. We worked until 4 in the morning. Emma reads documents in a way that catches things attorneys miss. Around 3:30, she picked up an envelope I dismissed as junk from the estate pile. Dad, what's this? The envelope was yellowed, sealed, labeled in Dutch's handwriting.
Lakewood Trust. Important.
I'd never opened it. Assumed it was some forgotten account. Probably empty. Emma carefully opened it. Inside was a notarized trust document dated 1967. Edges still crisp. The Cordell Family Land Trust, she read aloud. Established by Dutch Cordell as trustee. Trust assets, 42 acres comprising entirety of Lakewood Development Company master parcel. She looked up slowly. Dad, do you realize what this means? That Dutch loved paperwork. It means you don't just own the land. You control it through a legal entity that's 58 years old. And look, beneficiaries are Dutch Cordell and his descendants in perpetuity. When he died, you automatically became trustee. My brain felt sluggish. So what? So trusts don't die when people die. If maintained properly, they're nearly indestructible legal entities. And Article 7, she flipped pages, trustee may revoke any leases, easements or licenses granted on trust land with 90-day written notice. I stared at her. You can kick them all out, she said quietly. Legally. Every house built after 1967. I'm not evicting 47 families, Emma. I know. But Vivica doesn't know that. She kept reading. Wait, there's more. Did Dutch ever pay property taxes on the common
areas?
I don't know. Why? She opened her laptop, pulled up the county assessor site. 15 minutes of clicking and muttering later, oh my God. What? The HOA never paid property taxes on the clubhouse, pool, or roads. They assumed it was public land.
But it isn't. It's trust land.
Private property.
How much?
6 years of back taxes plus penalties. She scribbled numbers, about $187,000.
Give or take.
Something shifted inside my chest. Not hope exactly.
Possibility. The county can seize it, Emma continued.
If the HOA can't pay, they foreclose and auction the assets. Standard tax delinquency procedure. But the HOA doesn't have that kind of money.
Exactly. She smiled, not happy. Lawyer happy. Dad, you don't have to be the villain. Let the county be the villain. You just inform them.
We sat there in pre-dawn darkness surrounded by 60 years of my grandfather's secrets. Are you doing this for Dutch?
Emma asked. Or revenge?
I looked at the photo of the destroyed boathouse pinned to my corkboard.
Both, I said.
And because nobody else should lose their home to someone like her.
Emma squeezed my hand.
Then let's burn her empire down.
Legally. Legally, I agreed. Outside, the lake began to brighten.
Loons called in the distance, the same sound Dutch had heard every morning for 40 years. Time to finish what he started. Monday morning I called Shauna Briggs, the real estate attorney I'd found online. Her office sat above a sandwich shop called Hoagie Paradise, which felt cosmically appropriate given my life lately. Shauna was 60-something. Gray hair.
Practical Bob.
Zero tolerance for nonsense. Consultation fee, $200.
Best money I ever spent.
Let me get this straight, she said, leaning back in a squeaky chair. You inherited a land trust that owns the entire subdivision. The HOA built on your land without permission. And they owe 6 figures in back taxes. That's the summary. And you want to expose this legally without harming the homeowners.
She smiled.
I like you. Most clients want blood.
You want justice. She pulled out a pad.
Here's what we do. I file a quiet title lawsuit naming you as trust beneficiary. We challenge every deed in the subdivision. Force acknowledgement of your ownership. Then, and this is crucial, we immediately offer settlement terms. What kind of terms? You dissolve the HOA. Place properties under trust management. Charge reasonable ground rent, far lower than HOA dues. Let residents buy out leases over time if they want.
Everyone wins except Vivica. How long? 2 weeks to draft. Another week to serve.
You'll need a good surveyor. Already have one.
Perfect.
I'll subpoena HOA financials too. Discovery is a beautiful thing.
She kept writing. Anything else?
They demolished my boathouse.
Her pen stopped.
Before or after you knew about the trust?
Before. Even better.
Destruction of property on land they don't own. We'll add that.
More notes.
This is going to get ugly, Mr. Cordell.
You ready?
They already made it ugly. Good answer. While Shauna handled legal strategy, I focused on building support.
Gus helped.
Turns out decades in the Postal Service make you excellent at door-to-door campaigns. We went house to house with a one-page flyer Emma designed. What you really own, the truth about Mirror Lake property rights. Plain language. No legal jargon. Just facts. Dutch's ownership. The trust. HOA dues collected on land they never controlled. 22 homeowners signed our petition for an independent financial audit within 3 days. Nearly half the neighborhood. Dana, the accountant who challenged Vivica at that meeting, volunteered to review records once we obtained them. I've wanted to do this for 2 years, she said, signing.
But I was afraid. Vivica makes people afraid.
Not anymore, Gus said. The financial records arrived through court-ordered discovery. 3 banker boxes delivered by Shauna. Dana and I spent Saturday combing through every receipt, every transaction, every statement. What we found was worse than embezzlement. It was systematic looting. Vivica's management company, actually her husband Leonard's LLC, charged the HOA $8,500 per month for consulting services. No itemized work. No deliverables. Just transfers. 3 years total, $360,000. Clubhouse renovations, $340,000 claimed. Dana called contractors. Real invoices totaled $190,000.
The rest vanished.
Buried in 2023 transactions, $75,000 paid to Pinnacle Properties LLC for development consulting. Pinnacle had dissolved in 2020. Dana pulled up the Illinois Secretary of State database. That payment went to a shell company, she said. Same registered address as Leonard Drummond's law office. They created a fake company to pay themselves? That's felony fraud. She highlighted the transaction. But here's what really makes me furious. They raised our dues 15% last year to cover unexpected maintenance costs. There were no unexpected costs, they just wanted more money to steal. I photographed everything, sent copies to Shauna, and to Jake Renfro, the investigative reporter covering HOA abuse stories for the regional paper. Jake called 2 hours later.
Is this real?
Every document's authenticated through court discovery. Can I interview you on camera?
Not yet. I needed one more piece, the tax situation.
Oh, this is beautiful, he said, genuinely excited. Give me 2 weeks to verify everything with county officials. I'll make this story bulletproof. While Jake worked his angle, I contacted Travis, the surveyor. I need a visual presentation a jury could understand, original boundaries, current structures, every encroachment.
Travis grinned.
I can do a full 3D model with drone footage overlays.
When do you need it?
Yesterday, I said. Emma stayed the whole week helping coordinate. Our kitchen table was covered in color-coded files instead of chaos. Wednesday night, over Chinese takeout, I told her, "You're good at this."
She laughed. Paralegal training. Also, Mom taught me to fight smart.
She cracked open a fortune cookie. Patience is bitter, but its fruit is sweet. We toasted to Dutch and Mom, both gone, knowing their sons were taking down a bully with paperwork and spite. The lawsuits hit like a bomb, 47 separate summonses, one for each homeowner, all delivered by certified mail on the same Tuesday morning. By noon, the neighborhood Facebook group was melting down. Panic rippled through people I'd waved to, chatted with at the mailbox. Gus texted, "Stay off social media. Let me handle it." He posted a calm response, "Read the actual lawsuit. Max isn't taking anyone's home. He's challenging the HOA's legal authority."
Big difference.
Vivica fired back minutes later, "Emergency HOA meeting tonight, 7 p.m. Attendance mandatory."
Gus went.
He recorded the meeting. 80 people crammed into the clubhouse. Vivica looked furious and terrified. Leonard, her husband, stood beside her in a suit pricier than most people's monthly mortgage. "Max Cordell is trying to extort this community with frivolous litigation," she said. "We will countersue for harassment, defamation, and emotional distress. We've engaged outside counsel."
Someone shouted about the cost.
Leonard explained, $2,500 per household due within 30 days.
The room erupted. Dana stood.
"Where did $75,000 to Pinnacle Properties go in 2023?
Vivica froze.
"Confidential vendor information." Dana held up documents. Pinnacle dissolved in 2020. They'd paid a non-existent company $75,000. The crowd erupted. Vivica and Leonard fled in their Escalade. Gus sent me one word, imploding.
But Vivica wasn't done.
Thursday morning, my driveway was blocked by an HOA maintenance truck. Driver refused to move. President Drummond said to park here.
I called a tow truck.
Friday, my mailbox was spray-painted, "Thief." Saturday, neighbors received anonymous letters. "Max Cordell is using legal tricks to steal your homes." He demolished his own boathouse for sympathy.
Protect your investment.
I documented everything, photos, police reports, timestamps, and sent it to Shauna. Leonard called me directly. I recorded the call. "You demolished my boathouse."
A miscommunication, I said.
"Let's be reasonable. Drop the lawsuit, we'll waive your lien, and I can offer $100,000.
Silence.
I countered, "You and Vivica resign, return every stolen dollar, or I forward everything to the county prosecutor." His voice iced over, "You're making a mistake. We have resources you can't imagine. Lawyers, connections, favors owed."
Another pause.
"Actually, a better offer. Anonymous LLC wants to buy your property. $4. $2 million cash, closes in 30 days. Who's the buyer?"
I asked. Anonymous. But trust me, you want this deal. I hung up. Emma walked in.
"Was that bribery recorded?" I played it back. She gave me her lawyer face. He was panicking. That anonymous buyer was probably a shell company, hoping to claim adverse possession over common areas through continuous use. Not possible in 6 years, but it could tie us up in court for years. We needed proof Vivica had done this before. I pulled up the county foreclosure database, looking for a pattern.
Emma helped.
Until 2 a.m. We found the Reagan family, $917 in disputed fees. Vivica filed the lien. Leonard's LLC bought the property for $120,000, 40% below market, flipped it 6 months later for $890,000. Profit, $770,000. This wasn't just embezzlement, it was a foreclosure scam. I hired Lorraine, former FBI white-collar crime specialist.
2 weeks, she said.
She delivered in 10 days. Vivica's company never filed an Illinois business registration.
Tax fraud.
Leonard's law firm under bar investigation. Unauthorized escalated lease payments. Sloppy criminals always get caught. I also filed for reassessment of all parcels in the Cordell Family Land Trust. The county found the HOA hadn't paid taxes on common areas, clubhouse, pool, roads, retention pond, all taxable. Demand letter, $87,340 due in 30 days or county begins foreclosure. Emergency HOA meeting, only 14 attended. Special assessment announced, $4,000 per household. The room cleared in under a minute. Second town hall at the public library drew 48 residents. People were awake, informed, united. Vivica's reign of abuse was ending. I stood at the front of the room with Emma beside me. Travis's 3D survey model glowed on the projector screen.
I didn't start with small talk. No preamble.
I said exactly what needed to be said. I'm not here to evict anyone. I'm here to dissolve the HOA and establish a fair system. I showed them the trust document and explained Dutch's original vision: affordable long-term leases, community ownership, neighbors supporting neighbors, not enriching board members.
My proposal?
Ground rent of $600 a year, locked in for 99 years. Residents pay property taxes directly to the county.
Maintain your own homes.
No architectural review boards. No ridiculous fines.
No Viva. Someone chuckled. Then another.
Soon, half the room was laughing.
What about the clubhouse? A woman asked. I smiled.
I'm donating it to the township as a public recreational facility. Everyone can use it, but Lakewood residents get priority.
Applause. Real applause.
Where do we sign?
Dana asked.
I had clipboards ready. By the end of that night, 42 of 47 households had signed interest forms. But Vivica had one last card. The following Tuesday, my septic system backed up, raw sewage flooding the yard. The stench was enough to make grown men gag. The septic company discovered the cause: concrete mix dumped into my cleanout pipe.
Sabotage.
$8,000 in repairs. I was furious.
Emma was furious.
But then the young contractor, maybe 25, pulled me aside. I need to tell you something, he said, showing texts from the HOA president's number. They'd offered him cash to make sure my septic backed up. I didn't realize what I was doing until I saw your house. My mom lives nearby, she told me the truth. I'll testify if you need me. And I won't charge for the repair. I took screenshots, added everything to my file, and filed a criminal complaint. The county sheriff's office started paying attention. Then Jake Renfro's story dropped: HOA embezzlement and land fraud, 4,000 words in the regional paper, 18-minute YouTube video, interviews, financial records. My story went viral, 42,000 views in 48 hours, picked up statewide. The call that mattered came Thursday. Mr. Cordell, we've opened a criminal investigation into Mirror Lake Estates HOA. We're issuing subpoenas for all banking records. We'd like you to testify at the county commissioner hearing next Tuesday at 7 p.m.
Yes, I said.
Emma smiled from the kitchen doorway.
It's happening.
That Sunday, I visited Dutch's grave.
Simple stone.
Hand-carved duck decoy I left in his memory. Almost done, old man, I whispered.
One more fight. Tuesday arrived.
The courthouse hearing room was packed. Lakewood residents filled the seats. Jake had his camera crew. Commissioners presided from the raised bench, radiating authority. Vivica and Leonard Drummond sat in the front row. Commissioner Patricia Valtz, late 60s, commanded the room like she owned it. We're here to assess allegations of financial mismanagement by Mirror Lake Estates HOA. Mr. Cordell, you requested this hearing.
Present your case. I stood, no notes.
Emma had taught me notes make you look weak. Confidence and facts. I showed the original boundaries on Travis's survey, overlaid with current structures. 11 homes, including Vivica's, encroaching on trust land. Every property sat on land still owned by the Cordell Family Land Trust. Dutch had leased parcels for $1 a year because neighbors should support each other, not be exploited. Then came the financial records, highlighted, glowing yellow. Over $420,000 siphoned through fake contracts and shell companies.
Foreclosure scams. Property flipping.
My family's history destroyed over $300.
I'm not here for revenge, I said.
I'm here to make sure this never happens again. Vivica tried to defend herself. I built the HOA into something. Property values increased 17%. By extorting your neighbors? Commissioner Vault's voice cut like glass. Leonard tried to pull her away. She resisted. Max Cordell is manipulating legal technicalities to steal an entire neighborhood.
I stayed calm.
I'm withdrawing my lawsuit against the homeowners. But I'm requesting the county place the HOA into receivership, audit every transaction, and return stolen funds. I've also drafted a new community land trust. Ground rent $600 a year, 99-year lease. Clubhouse, pool, and common areas transferred to township.
I held up a pen. I'll sign it tonight.
Anyone who wants real ownership can join me.
The room erupted. Vivica screamed.
Leonard dragged her toward the exit.
Doors closed. Silence.
Commissioner Vaults banged her gavel. 6 minutes later, the vote was unanimous. HOA into receivership, freeze all accounts, refer financial records to the county prosecutor, approve Max Cordell's land trust proposal pending township review.
Justice. Finally.